Sudan has experienced significant unrest as the Sudanese Army clashed with a powerful military faction called the RSF, also known as the Rapid Support Forces. It has been reported that this violence has extended into the disputed Afashanga region, which lies between Sudan and Ethiopia. Even though the United States Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres have urged for a ceasefire, the ongoing violence in Sudan has not shown any indication of slowing down. In this video, we aim to clarify why this conflict arose in Sudan and how it extended into Ethiopia, and why this may worsen an already unstable region. To understand the current situation in Sudan, we need to delve into some of Sudan's history. It all began in 1989 when al-Bashir seized power in a bloodless coup. He then manipulated the elections to stay in power for the next 3 decades, during which his administration perpetuated the Sudanese Civil War, a protracted battle between non-Muslim ethnic groups and the predominantly Muslim central government. The conflict ultimately resulted in the creation of South Sudan in 2011. Shortly after coming into power, al-Bashir reignited the long-standing conflict in Darfur. Despite previous peace accords, the International Criminal Court's investigation found that al-Bashir masterminded and implemented a plan to destroy the primary ethnic groups in Darfur, the non-Arab Fur, Masalit, and Zahagwa people, through a campaign of murder, rape, and forced displacement. In 2013, the United Nations estimated that al-Bashir's government forces has killed as many as 300,000 ethnic Darfuri people, with millions more forced to flee their homes. Al-Bashir was subsequently charged by the ICC for orchestrating a brutal campaign of mass killing, rape, and looting against Darfur's civilian population, becoming the first sitting head of state to be indicted by the ICC. In 2019, he was overthrown by the Sudanese military and extradited to the ICC a year later. Following the overthrow of al-Bashir, the military seized power and declared a state of emergency, assuming complete control of Sudan. Eventually, an agreement was reached between the protesters and the military, which pledged to appoint a civilian leader to replace the military by November 2021 and hold democratic elections in 2022. However, the military reneged on this deal and carried out another coup in October 2021. The October 2021 coup was led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, who heads Sudan's military and now serves as Sudan's president. He was supported by the RSF, which is essentially the name given to the Janjaweed in the mid-2010s when they were partially integrated into the Sudanese military following the conflict in Darfur. In a televised speech, al-Burhan denied that he had carried out a coup, instead claiming that he had tried to correct the path of the transition and promised democratic elections in July 2023. However, this announcement did not sit well with the Sudanese public, who overwhelmingly desired a democratically elected civilian government. This led to massive pro-democracy protests that persisted until early 2022. As expected, the military responded to the protests by cracking down on demonstrators, resulting in the deaths of hundreds of protesters and the injury of thousands more. Additionally, the military began to reassert itself in political appointments, prompting Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok to resign in protest in January 2022, following months of further protests and negotiations between civilian and military leaders. The two sides finally reached a framework agreement in December 2022. In 2019, the Sudanese military had promised to give up power and facilitate a transition to democracy within 2 years. However, there was always skepticism about whether the military would follow through on this commitment. The immediate cause of the recent fighting, however, is related to another part of the agreement, which requires the RSF to be fully integrated into the Sudanese Army. This was always going to be challenging, as both the RSF and the Sudanese Army have approximately 100,000 troops each, and it has sparked a power struggle between al-Burhan and the leader of the RSF, Lieutenant General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, who is also Sudan's current vice president. Essentially, the current conflict is not driven by any ideological differences, but is instead a pure power struggle between two factions within the Sudanese army. Most of the fighting is concentrated in the capital city, Khartoum, where the two sides are vying for crucial civilian and military infrastructure. The RSF has flown fighter jets over the Sudanese army's positions, where the Sudanese army has used heavy artillery to shell the RSF. On Thursday, the World Health Organization, or WHO, estimated that at least 330 people have been killed and 3,000 injured in the conflict, but the actual numbers are probably much higher. The situation is undoubtedly tragic, as both groups lack the support of the Sudanese public, and neither al-Burhan nor Dagalo can be viewed as good or bad guys. Both of them are deeply disliked, and they were supposed to relinquish power to a civilian government soon. But this now seems less probable. In addition, there is a genuine danger that the conflict may spread internationally, causing more instability in East Africa. The continent of Africa is currently facing various crises. Ethiopia is still dealing with the aftermath of the Tigray War, while South Sudan is working towards finding a peaceful resolution to the conflict between its ethnic groups. Both Eritrea and Somalia are considered failed states. Additionally, the reports have emerged indicating that the Egyptian Air Force is providing support to the Sudanese army, and the Libyan army is allegedly supplying the RSF. The RSF has requested assistance from Eritrea, which intervened in the Tigray conflict in Ethiopia last year. Meanwhile, the Sudanese army has accused Ethiopian forces of launching an armored assault on Al-Fashanga, a contested border area, after Sudan moved troops from the Ethiopian border to Khartoum. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has refuted these allegations, but the region has experienced a surge in violence since the Tigray conflict, and Ahmed's inability to rein in Ethiopia's diverse regional militias is not encouraging. In summary, this situation in Sudan is tragic and has the potential to create further instability in the already crisis-ridden continent of Africa. For the past 5 years, the region has been in a constant state of turmoil, and the ongoing conflict in Sudan could worsen the situation. What do you think? Will the Sudanese government sort things out soon? Comment your thoughts below. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to stay up to date with our latest uploads.